Very good morning, students. Welcome back to Java Programming online class. In our previous session, we started the operators and we have also discussed the control structures. Okay. So in that control structures, we discussed all the selection statements. They are nothing but the conditional statements like your if-else statement, nested if-else statement, else if-else ladder, switch statement, nested switch statements. Okay, all these conditional statements we have covered, and we have also seen your iterative statements, that is nothing but your loops, your while loop, your do while loop, we have seen. So inside these loops, we made the categorization like the pre-test loops and post-test loops. So the while loop, do while loop is the post-test loop, and the rest of the two, that is for loop and while loop, they are pre-test loops. Okay, we can also make the categorization like the conditional loops and the counter controlled loops. So your while loop and do while loop are conditional loops or event driven loops, but whereas your for loop, it is a counter controlled loop. Event driven, counter controlled. Okay, remember this one. Okay, this sort of categorization we need to remember. Okay, being a programmer, we have to have all these things, but I don't think that in your external exams, especially when we are talking about Java, they're going to frame anything from these control structures, because it is already your third semester that we are discussing these control structures. Okay, so before moving ahead from these control structures, we have some special forms of your for loop that we need to discuss. Okay, we'll try to cover that things, and after that we will move into your classes and objects concept. Okay, so quickly we'll go there. So these operators we have completed, the control statements, okay, the selection statements and the looping statements. So the for loop, if you see here, a for loop, it is having two different forms. Okay, a for loop is having two different forms, or there are two forms of the for loop that we can use. So the first is the traditional form. I mean, it is there from the since the original version of your Java, that is Java 1.0, 1.0. Okay, we named it as Java 1.0 as Oak. You might have remembered from the history of Java. Okay, so from the first version, we have the traditional for loop, and there are some slight changes in that traditional for loop as well that we need to discuss. After that, we have the second version, second form of for loop, and we call it as for each form of for loop, and this is new in Java. I think from version 1.5 we got this for each version of the for loop. Especially in collections framework, we're gonna use these for each version of the for loop. Okay, we need to discuss quickly what differences we have in traditional form and what is this for each form, an additional new form. Okay, so in order to help the traditional form of your for loop, I will take the help of my edit plus. Okay, let me just open that edit plus now. Let me just close this one. Discard and minimize. This also minimize. Okay, I'm opening my edit plus. Okay, let's close this one. Take a new file. Hopefully you are understanding what I'm doing. Make it like this. Okay, yeah, here we need to write my program. In order to explain that for loop, I'm taking this program help, edit plus help. So I'm writing a program. So before doing anything, it is better to save the program. Yes, here I'm gonna save my program. I will make sample for demo dot java. So the program name what I have taken, the same name I have to take over here for my class, sample for demo. Okay, inside it I need to put my main method public static void main of string args. Okay, in this I'm going to take my for loop. See, generally whenever we are taking a for loop, we will take one variable, isn't it? Int I we declare, then we do the initialization. For all I equals to 0, I must be less than, let us say if we are printing the starting 10 numbers, so I must be less than 10. So it will print from 0, right? So if I want to print from 1 to 10, then here you put equal. Okay, then I plus plus. So like this we do. This is the general form that we know from C language. And if there is only one statement, okay, first we'll do like this. Okay, system dot out dot print ln of print I. That's it. I we are printing. Print I. So here you close it. Okay, save this. Now how we gonna compile it? Yes, we have the integrated compiler in this one. We have integrated basically this one. So compile. Yeah, it is not showing any errors. So you can run it. Java run. Yes, we are getting, as you can see, we are getting 1 to 10 all numbers. This is what we want, and that is what our program is doing now. So now the changes I will show you. What this is the traditional form. This is the traditional form of our for loop. So this is how we use this for loop in C language also. There is no change. Okay, what additional things you can do with this traditional form of for loop that I am explaining over here? So you can remove, because there is only one statement in the body of the for loop, so no need to use the compound statement. So you can remove that block. Okay, no need to use that block over there. So now you see we will get the same output. Go compile, compilation successful, and if you execute you will get the output like this. 1 to 10 we got. Hopefully you're understanding what I am doing, what changes I am doing. So the other change what we can do in the sense, no need to do the declaration in the declaration area. Okay, no need to do the declaration in the declaration area. You can do the declaration anywhere in Java programming. We already discussed this thing. So in that sense, instead of declaring I separately, I can do the declaration as part of your for loop only. So here only I can mention the type of I as integer. This is also allowed in Java. So quickly save it and compile. As you can see, no errors. But if you do the same thing in C language, you will get error over there. Declaration is not allowed at this point. Like this, the same error you will get in C programming. Declaration is not allowed at this point. But over here, Java is allowing us to declare the variables at any point. At any point. So now directly go and compile it. Already we did it, I think. So then run it. See, we are getting the same output. Hopefully you are understanding this one. We are getting the same output. Okay, then the next thing, yes, not just one counter or not just one initialization. If you want to run the loop with more than one initialization, that also you can do. Okay, so let us say along with I also wants to run another counter like J. Okay, so that J, how I can do in the sense, simply use the comma as the separator for the J's declaration. Okay, I declaration we did and J's declaration we are doing. In between we can put a comma. In between we can put a comma, just a normal comma, and we can do the J's declaration. J equals to 10 I am saying. Okay, and what I am doing over here, instead of making I is less than or equals to 10, I am making I is less than or equals to J. I am involving J also in the condition. And here in the updation part, in the updation part, now we have two variables, two counters we have declared to run this loop. So one updation, it is obviously possible in your traditional approach, but if you have to do two updations, I mean two increment and decrements, two separate things in the updation part, there you can do by separating with comma only. Okay, so now I suppose I value I'm incrementing, I want to decrement j value. So that how I can do, simply put one comma in between and write j minus minus. This is completely allowed in Java. Okay, now you see how the output will change. So in the initialization part we have two initializations, and in the updation part we have two updations separated with comma. In both cases we have separated with comma, but the condition, you can't separate two conditions, you can't frame two conditions over here and separate them with the help of a comma. It is not allowed. So when you have more than one condition, you have to club those conditions with the help of relational operators, isn't it? With the help of, sorry, logical operators. You have to use logical operators over there. Hopefully you understood. So simply save this, and now you go and compile. No issues, then run. So over here what you will get, because I value is incrementing and j value is decrementing. So when j value goes less than I, immediately the condition will fail, isn't it? When j value goes less than I value, the condition will fail. So I guess up to 5 it will print. Okay, we'll see. Okay, what output we will get, we will see. Then execute the program. See, up to 5 it is printing, as I said. Okay, up to 5 it is printing. Hopefully you understood. Just check what changes I have done in the for loop. Just have a look on it. Instead of doing the declaration separately in the declaration area, in Java it is allowed to do the declaration as part of the body of the for loop itself. Okay, and doing the declaration of multiple counters or multiple variables is also allowed, just by separating them with a comma. Doing the updation of multiple counters is also allowed, just separate them with the help of a comma. So like this you have to remember the changes in traditional version of your for loop. Hopefully you understood. So the next thing, we have another form of for loop, that is for each version of for loop. So this traditional version already I have explained. See, the traditional version when we are looking at, so the initialization, condition and iteration. Iteration is nothing but your updation. Okay, then body of the loop we are keeping. If we have only one statement to be repeated, so inside the body of the for loop, if you have only one statement, there is no need to use the curly braces. This thing I have shown in Edit Plus. Just remove the curly braces if you have only one statement. If you have more than one statement, in that case only use the curly braces. That we know already. So declaring loop control variables inside the for loop. So this we have discussed, using the variable declaration as part of your for loop only. Instead of declaring the variables in the declaration area, you can do the declaration as part of the for loop only. And just I mean, if you are doing multiple declarations or if you are doing multiple updations, then use comma as a separator. This also I explained. So these are the changes inside your traditional for loop. Okay, so which we are seeing between C and Java. Okay, so then we have the for each version of for loop, and it is beginning with Java, I mean JDK 1.5, we got this second form of for loop, and we are calling it as the for each style of for loop or for each version of for loop. Okay, so a for each style is designed to cycle through a collection of objects. So basically whenever we are dealing with collections, your array is a collection, isn't it? So whenever we are dealing with collections, to cycle through, I mean in order to access all the elements from an array, we are making use of this for each version of for loop. Okay, because we are going to have multiple elements inside an array collection. So how we are going to access all the elements? Basically whenever we are accessing an array, we are taking the help of for loop. With the help of traditional for loop also we can do, but here over here we are going to use the for each version of for loop. Okay, how exactly we are going to do that with the help of a program I will show you, and believe me, you will get the full clarity over here if you watch this video. And this is one of the best advantage we can say, because if you understand this for each version of for loop here, you no need to do extra work when we do collections framework. That is your fourth unit. Hopefully you understood the importance of every lecture. uh, yes, Java adds the for each capability by enhancing the first statement. So actually whatever traditional version of for loop we have, they have just enhanced that one. Enhancing in the sense they have added some new features to it. So don't think that we are going to change the for loop entirely. Okay, the traditional version remains the same, but this for each version, it is just an enhancement to the traditional version. Okay, so the advantage of this approach is that a new keyword is required and no pre-existing code is broken. So we are going to use a new keyword when we are using the for each version of the for loop, and the existing code we are not changing. So the body, the iterations, everything will remain same. Only there is a slight change will happen. Instead of semicolon we use colon, and instead of taking the counters to run through a collection, we directly take the collection itself in order to run through. Okay, so the for each style of for loop is also referred to as the enhanced for loop. See here, I don't think it is visible to you because my video may be coming over here. So the for each version, it is also referred to as the enhanced version of for loop. The enhanced version of for loop, the second name given to it. See the general form over here. See, yes, let us say I have an array with 5 elements. I have an array with 5 elements. A of 5 equals to, I'm giving the explanation over here. Like my elements are 3, 7, 9, 4, 2. These are my elements inside the array. A of 5, I have 5 elements, 3, 7, 9, 4, 2. So in order to run through, in order to access all these elements, how we write the traditional version of for loop, just go to the edit plus directly. So the same thing I'm declaring over here, my array integer a of 5 equals to, because this type of declaration is also allowed. Static declaration is also allowed without the new keyword. Okay, so here I'm taking 3, 5, 7, 9, 2. So like this we have done the declaration of my array. So now to run through this array, what we do, I equals to 0, because index will start from 0. I equals to 0, then I must be less than how many elements? 5, maximum size. Then I plus plus we do, and in order to print the array elements, what we do over here, a of I. Like this we print. So quickly we check whether we are getting the output or not, or there are any mistakes in this one. Okay, it is what it is saying. So many errors it is giving. Okay, possibly it is not taking. Let's just take here. It should support like this, but it is not supporting. Let's just take like this, but we need 5 elements. Okay, so like this it is allowing. So let me just run this. Yes, we are getting the array elements. See, instead of making the size specific, make it as size, I mean without size. Do the declaration without size, and instead of taking the array size over here, I mean size indication over here, take the array size after the type, because these are some of the standards which are not of our concern. Okay, so 35792, like this you can do. So this is the traditional approach. In traditional approach, we are accessing all the elements from the array. I guess like this also it will support. Like this also it will support. But when you make the size specific, you definitely have to use the new operator. So let me just check whether it is supporting like this or not. Yes, it is supporting. You can see over here. So if there is no size specification, then you can initialize, then you can allocate the memory as with the help of the variable count. I mean, sorry, constant count. But if there is a specific size, definitely you have to go for new operator, because you know the size in advance. So why to declare it? I mean, why to give the size from the stack? Directly allocate it from the heap. Okay, because of that reason it is not accepting. Java is not accepting. So if you don't know the size, then you can take the size from what we call stack, because this is static declaration. I'm not using the new keyword here. This is the static declaration. But when you know the size in advance, don't go for stack declaration, go for heap declaration. And when we are going for heap, we have to use the new operator. New operator, what it will do, it will allocate the memory dynamically in the sense from the heap. So because of that reason only I got those errors. So now I'm not getting any issues. So directly compile the program, compilation successful, and then run the program. See, running is also successful. So likewise, so in with the help of the for each version, how we do it in the sense, over here you can see we have for, then we have the type, and we need to take a temporary variable over here, a temporary variable, and pass the collection over here, the entire collection over here, and then put the statement block. So what this will do in the sense, in every here when we are saying collection, this collection is nothing but your a. Okay, this collection is nothing but your a variable, array. Okay, and here the type will be what type of elements we are accessing from the collection, integer. So the type will be integer. Then here we are saying iteration variable. What iteration variable? Make it as any temporary name, temporary variable you take, temp, then put colon. So how this loop will work in the sense, in every iteration, this for loop will take one element from this collection and put that element inside this temporary variable. Okay, in every iteration it will take only one element from this collection and put that variable, I mean put that element inside this temporary variable. Okay, like this, till what extent this loop will iterate? As long as you have elements in this one, elements in this collection. So in the first iteration, what it will do, it will take 3, because the first 0th index is 3. So it will take 3 from collection A and put inside temp. Then it will execute the statement block first time. Again, after executing the statement block, as it is a loop, it will come back to the loop itself. And then in the second iteration, it will put the second element into the temporary variable, that is 7. Likewise, again it will iterate. Then third iteration, 9. Fourth iteration, 4. Then last, fifth iteration, 2. After, when it keeps 2 inside the temporary variable, then again it will go to the statement block. After executing the statement block, again it will come back to the for loop. So when it is coming back last time to the for loop, again it will check the collection. Does the collection is having more elements or not? As we know, now the collection is over because we have access to the last element as well. This is 1, 2, 3, 4. The fourth indexed element, that is 2. The last element, that is 2. We have access to the 2 as well. So after accessing 2, as there are no more elements inside the collection to access, the loop will terminate. The loop will simply terminate. So this is the for loop, for each version of the for loop. So how it is operating, or how it is iterating in the sense, based on the number of elements inside the collection, the for loop is iterating. As long as there are elements inside the collection, your for loop will iterate. And once the elements are over, once there are no elements inside the collection, once you run through all the elements inside your collection, then your for loop will simply stop. Remember this one. This is very, very, very important, and many times they ask this question: explain about the for each style of looping in Java. So this is a 2 marks question. Okay, so yes, we can go and we see over there inside your IDE how this will work inside your edit plus. So what I said, take the same array declaration, then go here, and we need to take one temporary variable colon, then take the collection. That's it. So now what we have to print here, no need to print a of I, print temp, because in every iteration the elements will be inside temporary variable only. The concerned elements will be in temporary variable only. In the first iteration 3 will come inside temporary variable, in the second iteration 5 will come, in third iteration 7 will come, in fourth iteration 9 will come, in last iteration 2 will come. Like that it will take all the elements into your temporary variable one at a time, one in each iteration. So likewise, you can get the same elements on the output screen. So now save this one, and tools, compile, no errors. As you can see, it is supporting the for each version of for loop, no errors. So then print, we need to get the same output. See, this is very, very important. I am telling you, 3, 5, 7, 9, 2 we got. Okay, so this is the for each version of for loop what we have just practiced. Hopefully you understood. We'll go further and we'll see what we have inside the uh, slides. So this thing I have explained. So accessing the loop, here we are calculating the sum basically. So this thing also you can do, but I have shown how we are doing with the regular for loop and how we are doing it with the for each version of for each form. Okay, both the things we discussed in order to access the what we call collection elements, array elements. Hopefully you understood. So then we have the concept of classes. We are introducing classes because we completed all the basic concepts from Java, and we are now getting into the object oriented concepts, and class is one such object oriented concept. Okay, the class is the core for Java, core of Java. So without classes there is nothing in Java programming. Even a small program, a hello world program you are writing, that you can't do with the help of simple programming constructs. Definitely you have to go for a class, because we need bytecode in order to execute the Java program, and that bytecode how we will get, in the sense, with the help of class only we will get. Okay, so it is the logical construct upon which the entire Java language is built, because it defines the shape and nature of an object. So Java is the class is the core for Java, and upon the class only, upon the class style only, the entire Java programming is built upon. Okay, without these classes there is no Java programming language. Okay, the class forms the basis for object oriented programming in Java. So whatever object oriented programming principles you try to implement, all those principles, they are completely dependent on classes. So without classes there is nothing in Java. Any concept you wish to implement in Java program must be encapsulated within a class. Whatever logic, whatever program solution, whatever tactics you want to do in Java programming language, entire thing, your complete thing must be encapsulated within a class only. So outside the class in Java, you can't put anything. Even the method definition you can't write outside a class. Everything, it must go within a class only. Hopefully you understood. So the next thing, class fundamentals. So classes have been used since the beginning of this book. I mean, since the beginning of our discussion. That means from the very first program onwards, we are using classes. Okay, simply to encapsulate the main method which has been used to demonstrate the basic syntax of Java programming language. So even when when there is no need of class, we are using a class. Even when you are simply implementing just the basic logic that doesn't require a class, still we are doing everything inside a class only. So because your main method, it cannot stand outside the class. Being a method, it has to be stand within a class. So that's the reason we are taking the help of a class even if there is no need of that class. Okay, class is used to define a new data type. Yes, once defined, this new type can be used to create objects of that type. Basically, it is a user defined type. Class, what it is a user defined type, and class is an abstract, class is a template, class is the description about the object. All these definitions we have discussed in C++ language. How a class is helpful in the construction of a object, that also we discussed. We said class is the plan and object is the finished product. Okay, I have given many examples for the understanding of a class and object. Okay, so thus a class is a template. Just now I said template for an object. An object is an instance of a class. Instance in the sense a finished product, a real-time example. So how the plan will look like in real time in the sense, just look at the object. How a class will look like in real time in the sense, just look at the object. A plan drawn on a paper, okay, it is your class, but the building when you are seeing, constructed building when you are seeing, it is the object. Okay, class is the static entity, object is the dynamic entity. Class is the template, object is the instance. Many definitions I have given, many differences I have given between class and object. Okay, the two words object and instance used interchangeably. So whenever I am saying instance of a class, whenever I am saying instance of a class, I mean it like an object. I use the class and the instance, I use the object and the instance, these two terms interchangeably. So whenever I say object, it represents object. Whenever I say instance, it is an object. Okay, the general form of a class. So when you define a class, you declare it exact form and nature. So whenever we are going for a class, what exactly a class should possess, what exactly a class should have at the time of declaration, we do exactly that one. Okay, so yes, inside a class we can keep the data which it contains and the code that operates on that data. So this definition we had many times. The class is a collection of data members and member functions. In C++ we discussed. Over here we say class is a collection of instance variable. So here we use a different terminology. We call the data members as instance variables. Instance variables. Why we are calling them as instance variables? In the sense, as long as they are inside the class, they do nothing, isn't it? Whatever variable, whatever data members you are declaring inside the class, whatever instance variables you are declaring inside a class, as long as they are inside the class, they do nothing. Once you create the object, they will become active. They came into existence. So that's the reason we are calling them as instance variables, because they exist at the time of object creation only. They don't exist when you are writing the class. Remember this one. This is also very important. Okay, and inside a class we also keep the code, the logic which processes or which operates on these instance variables. So the class is a collection of data that it contains, as well as it is it is the collection of code that operates on the data. Okay, while very simple classes may contain only code or only data, most real world classes contain both. So it is possible that you can write a class with only code, that means only methods, and it is also possible to write a class with only data, that means only the instance variables. Okay, but many of the classes when we write in Java, we make we put both the things inside that class. That is, we put data as well as we put logic, that is your what we call code. So this is the general form, general syntax when we are writing the class. Okay, we need to use the keyword class whenever we are writing a class. Then give the class name, any identifier you can use over here, which suits the type of elements that you are keeping inside the class. Okay, then put all the instance variables. Okay, type followed by the instance variable 1, type followed by instance variable 2. Likewise, you can keep n number of instance variables of your wish, or any number of instance variables of your wish. Then methods in the sense member functions. Methods, return type followed by method name and the parameter list. And there is you can't put the body of the method, that is you can't put the definition of the method outside the class. You have to put the definition of the method inside within the class itself. Just let me check the time, what time it is, how much time. Okay, just 35 minutes elapsed, so still we have more time. Okay, so type followed by the method name, parameter list, and inside the class itself we need to put the body of the method. We can't separate the body of the method from the class. Okay, there are some other logics that slowly we will, as we advance in the syllabus, we will discuss. So remember this one, it is very very important. Okay, so type followed by instance variable, and type followed by method name along with parameter list, then body of the method. Likewise, you can even put any number of methods of your wish. There is no restriction on that. You can put only 10 methods, or you can put only 100 methods. Likewise, you can put any number of methods. Okay, it completely depends upon your requirement, your patience, your practice. Hopefully you understood. So this is the general notation or general form of a class. Class followed by the class name, open the curly bracket, and declare all the instance variables first, then do the declaration of methods. Okay, do the declaration, definition, everything inside the class itself. Don't left something that you want to do after the class, because there is nothing after the class inside Java, unlike your C++. Inside C++, it is completely allowed. Doing the method member function declaration inside the class and writing the definition outside the class, it is possible, but over here it is not possible. So all that explanation I have given over here. The data or variables defined within a class are called instance variables. So the first point, if you read, you will understand over here, the data or the methods, whatever we are declaring within a class, we are calling them as instance variables. The code it contains is called as methods. The code, whatever we are writing inside a class, we call it as a method. Okay, the methods and variables defined within a class are called members of the class. Okay, members of the class. Instance variables as well as methods, we call them as members of the class. Okay, variables defined within a class are called instance variables because each instance of the class, okay, that is each object of the class, contain its own copy of these variables. So if you create some 10 objects from with the help of that class, all 10 objects will have their own copies of these variables, instance variables. That's the reason we are calling them as instance. They exist at the time of object only, they don't exist at the time of class. Okay, thus the data for one object is separate and unique from the data for another object. This is same from your C++. Every object will have its own instance, its own variables, its own values, what we are going to assign. Okay, and they are operational, they are completely existent at the time of their creation. Okay, all methods have the same general form as main. That means they will have the parameter list, that they will have the return type, they will have the body of method. Okay, they will not be specified as static or public. Java classes do not need to have a main method. Okay, all the classes, okay, Java classes do not need to have a main method, in the sense all the classes do not need to have the main method. Only one of the program class, read the next point, last point, only one of the program class is the starting point for your program and is going to have a main method. Further, Applets don't require a main method. So when we discuss about applets, there we will see that inside an applet we are not going to keep any main method. Okay, an applet execution, an applet working principle, working procedure, it is entirely different from your regular Java application. Okay, applet is completely a different thing. Execution is also somewhat different. Okay, that we will see when it comes in our discussion, applets concept. So remember, applet is not going to have any main method. And inside your Java application, when you are writing multiple classes, it is not necessary that you have to put the main method inside every class. Only one class, which is going to be the starting point of your Java program, or we can call it as a public class. On inside only one class, we are going to put the what we call the main method, and that class is going to be the starting point for our program. From there itself, the memory allocation, from there itself the resource sharing, from in that class only we are going to create the objects for other classes. Everything will do inside that class only. Okay, so a simple class definition, I mean a simple class declaration I have shown over here. Here is a class called box. Okay, the class name is box, and inside this class what I am doing, I am declaring three members. So far I have not taken any methods. We'll do the method practice in our next session. Okay, so over here, a normal class with only instance variables, a normal class with only instance variables, that is width, height and depth. Three different variables I have taken. So here is a class called box that defines three instance variables, width, height and depth. Currently box does not contain any methods. Okay, surely in future when we discuss further concepts, there we will declare the methods as well within a class. Okay, so yes, now when it is declared, you can use the name of that class to create the objects, isn't it? Using the class name itself, we are going to create the objects. It is important to remember that a class declaration only creates a template. It is a static part. It will only creates the template. It does not create an actual object. Class declaration will not create the actual object. It is only the template. Then the following is the syntax used to create an object. So after creation of the class, after declaration of the class, using that class name, we can create any number of objects of that particular class. Okay, so the syntax for creating an object is, yeah, over here you can see the class name box, then this is my box is the object name, and then new keyword we have to use, and then the constructor call we have to do. Box of what it is, class name like a method, it is a constructor. About the constructor also we will discuss inshallah in our next class. So this is your constructor, remember this one. Okay, so then yeah, it is actually when we are doing the object creation like this, it is actually a collection of two different statements. One is the creation of object variable using the class name, and then allocating the memory to that object. Okay, declaring the reference to object and allocating the memory to the object. Allocation of memory using new keyword and with the help of constructor call, because constructor is responsible for assigning the memory, okay, or initializing the object we said. So it is a combination of two different statements. Instead of writing two different statements separately, what we are doing, we are writing the entire thing as a single statement. So box my box equals to new box of, like this we are generally doing. So now we discuss some of the examples on these programs. Okay, some of the examples on these programs. So let's just quickly go, yeah, over here. So what I will do is, along with public class, I will try to write my normal class that is box. Okay, inside this class we said we're gonna put all are of integers, right? Yeah, double they have taken, so I'm also taking double width because every box is going to have a width, height, depth likewise, isn't it? Width, height, and depth. So first variable width I have taken, then height I have taken, then depth I have taken. So like this, three variables, only data members. No need to close the class as we do in C++. After writing every class, after closing the class, we put a semicolon over here. That is not required in case of Java. Okay, like this. Now, this is my public class. So inside the main method, what I have to do, I have to create the object of this class box. Okay, so how I can create? That is box equals to box my box, because in future I'm going to create one more object, so I'm saying my box 1. Okay, this is in this way also you can create. So my box 1 equals to new box of constructor call. So this way we can create. Now how to access all the elements from this class, in the sense using the object, that is my box 1 dot, what is that, width, dth, width equals to assign some value, that is 24, then my box 1 dot, what is that, height. So using the dot operator we can access the data member, same like your C++ programming. Height, height, height equals to some 12 you give, then we have depth, right? So my box 1 dot depth equals to 6. Height, width, and depth I have given. So now suppose if I want to print the volume of this my box, okay, box 1, my box 1. So how we can print the volume? So calculate the volume. So double volume equals to, so my box 1 dot width, dth, width, multiplied with my box 1 dot height, height, height multiplied with depth, isn't it? My box 1 dot depth. So this will give the volume. Okay, once the volume is calculated, then print that volume on the output screen. System dot out dot println of, okay, volume of box 1, my box 1, my box 1 is, okay, what we do, close this, concatenate with volume, close this, put the semicolon. That's it. See, try to understand this program, how I'm writing the program, why I'm doing everything in front of you, means because you need to understand this. How much time is left? Yeah, still 5 more minutes we can work on. So like this, it is the creation of a simple box class, and using that box class I have created an object, my box 1, and I have allocated the memory to that my box 1, and I have initialized all the variables inside that my box 1. Then using all those variables, I have calculated the volume of that box, and I am printing the volume of that box on the output screen. So simply save this program. Program got saved. Now tools, compile. See, no errors. 100% correct the code. No errors. So then go and run. We are getting the volume. It is simply multiplying all those things, and it is giving the volume of my box 1 as 1728. If you multiply all those things, you will get this one only. Hopefully you understood. Okay. Okay, something is happening with my computer. Yes, it got closed. Yeah, this was open actually, so that's the reason we got issues. So minimize this stuff. So actually one more thing I just want to show you. I want to create another what we call object. Yeah, over here itself, instead of taking two separate statements to create the object, what we said, we can minimize the code like this, isn't it? So save this, Now you go tools, compile, compilation successful. Now run the code to check the output. Same output we got. See, 1728. Volume of my box 1 is 1728. So like this. So I want to create another object of this box class. So how I can? So now box my box 2. So now the instance of my box 1 and the instance of my box 2, they are different. I mean, width, height, depth variables of my box 1 are different from width, height and depth variables of my box 2. So whatever changes you do to the variables, I mean data members, I mean instance variables of my box 2, they are not going to affect the instance variables of my box 1. That I want to say. So over here, how I can initialize the instance variables of my box 2 object, in the sense my box 2 dot width equals to some smaller numbers you can take so that you can understand easily. My box 2 dot height equals to 3 you take. Then my box 2 dot depth equals to some 4 you take. So 2, 3, 4, like that I have taken. So now calculate this, make this as volume 1. Volume 1, because this is my box 1, right? So I'm going to take the volume 2 as well. So here we are printing volume 1. So now calculate volume 2. Double, see, the declaration at any point of time you can do in Java. No need to go to the declaration area and do the declaration. Here also you can do the declaration, as you might have seen. It is completely allowed. Then my box 2 dot width multiplied with my box 2 dot height multiplied with my box 2 dot depth. Put the semicolon at the end. Now you print that one, system dot out dot println of volume of my box 2 is put semicolon, then print the volume, that is volume 2 now, isn't it? Volume 2. So close it, put the semicolon at the end. That's it. So just observe the code what we have done over here. We have declared one class with name box with 3 instance variables. Still we have not added any code to the class. No member functions, there is no methods inside the class. Okay, so then see, when we are using separate classes, only one class need to have the main method, and the other class, it is simply having the instance variables, it is not having the main method. So here inside this we are keeping the main method, and inside that main method only we are creating the objects for this box class. The first object my box 1, the second object my box 2. So we have initialized the instance variables of my box 1 from here to here. Then we have initialized the instance variables of my box 2, that is from here to here. Just have a separation in between like this. Okay, so the initialization of instance variables of my box 1 in these 3 statements, then the initialization of instance variables of my box 2 in these 3 statements, then calculation of volume 1 for my box 1 that we have done over here in this statement, and printing the volume of my box 1. Then we have calculated the volume 2, that is of my box 2 with this formula. Then we are printing the volume of my box 2 over here, volume 2. So what will be the volume of my box 2? So my box 1 we got like 1728 something, because we have taken some large values 24, 12 and 6. But now we have taken smaller values over here. Okay, width is 2, height is 3 and depth is 4 units, like that we have taken. So when you calculate the volume of these 3, what it will be? 2 multiplied with 3 multiplied with 4, that is 2, 3, 6 multiplied with 4, 24. You need to get 24 over here. So simply save this, tools, compile, compilation successful, as you can see. Then run. Yes, 24 you got, 24 units cube you got, like this. So volume of my box 2 is 24. Volume of my box 1 is 1728. Like this you can remember. Hopefully you understood these concepts, and if you have any doubts you can pose in comment section. Doubts are always acceptable, and even you can post me on my personal WhatsApp if I'm not responding to your comments on YouTube. Okay, and attendance, they're asking the attendance. Be try to complete the attendance as early as possible. For every class I'm not giving the whole day. Immediately after 1 or 2 hours I'm closing the attendance link. So before that only you have to give the attendance, and make sure that you give the attendance, because without the attendance I don't think they are going to allow you to write the internals this time. Okay, make sure to give the attendance, and don't create any problem for yourself at the time of internals. Okay, thank you very much students.